Good morning, everybody, and a Boker Tov to all the Chavarim, to all of my friends and all of our congregants. And it is me, Rabbi Dennis, here to do our Torah portion for this week, which is Yitro. Now, you might be asking yourself, since I just showed you a clip from my favorite fictionalized Entebbe account movie, the story of the rescue of the passengers on the Air France flight that was hijacked to Entebbe, Uganda, and was delivered by Israeli commandos, the Sayeret Machtal, the Directorate commando team. It's a great scene. It's my favorite. I think I saw it when I was about 17 years old. It has a very young James Wood in it, as well as Charles Bronson, who I think does the best Jew face of any Gentile actor I can think of. But in any case, that scene has always stuck with me. Now, when I saw that scene of the paratroopers flying back to Israel triumphant with all the hostages rescued, and they start singing Hinei ma tov u'manayim. Keep in mind, I was not Jewish. I was 17 years old. I had no idea what they were saying. However, that didn't prevent that from being a very moving and very vivid scene, and I remember it to this day. Now, why am I showing you this clip of Raid on Entebbe to go with our Torah portion this week, Yitro? The answer is there's no reason whatsoever as far as the Torah portion is concerned. Well, I suppose I could contrive a reason, but I'm not going to do that. Really, I'm showing you that in light of what's happened this past week, over this weekend, the dramatic events at Congregation Beth Israel down in South Lake, where my friend Rabbi Charlie Citron Walker and several of his congregants, I'll just call them Shane and Lawrence and Jeff, were held hostage, and actually, with the quick thinking of Rabbi Charlie, rescued themselves. And the reason I'm showing that to you is because I know we're all feeling shpilkus. We're all upset. Anti-Semitism and terrorism has come to what is affect our neighborhood. Suddenly we're all 1 degree of separation from terrorism. And it impacts our psyche and it affects us all. That being said, I think I need to emphasize how well this all worked out. And I think by drawing parallels to the raid on Entebbe, I hope you realize that these events, as distressing as they were in their beginning, are triumphant and comforting in their end. The conclusion was effectively glorious. So, hine matov umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. How good and pleasant it is when Jews sit together in unity. All right, so let's get down to the Torah portion. Our Torah portion this week is Yitro. Last time when I was talking about Bishalach, I talked about that there are a series of climaxes throughout the book of Exodus. And the first one was the crossing of the Sea of Reeds. We're now at our second one, which is that having marched for, I believe it was like 7 weeks, the Israelites have now reached the foot of Mount Sinai. And so following upon the triumph of our liberation, we are now coming to the triumph of our becoming a holy people. And there's just so much going on. Oh gosh, I could talk about the Ten Commandments. I could talk about the theophany, which is the fancy word for God appearing to the Israelites, what that was all about. I could talk about whole bunch of things, but I'm not going to talk about those things. Instead, I'm going to talk about what makes a mensch. All right, and the reason I'm bringing that up is because our Torah portion features no less than 2 mensches. There is, of course, Moses, our great hero, our prophet, our lawgiver, the man who effectively can be seen as the human founder of Judaism. But right along with him, and the name is in the Torah portion, is his father-in-law, Jethro, or sometimes called Chobab. But we're not going to get into those different names. We're going to call him Jethro. And Jethro actually plays an enormously prominent role in this portion. And not only that, but as I said, the portion's named after him. So that's got to mean something, right? So here's what I want to talk about. Both of them are mensches, but which of them is the greater mensch? We all know about Moses. We know what Moses has done. We appreciate Moses for everything he is. We call him, Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses, our teacher. But let's give Jethro some love as a mensch. So the first time we meet Jethro, Moses, a fugitive from Egypt, has just delivered his 7 daughters from being menaced by a bunch of, motorcycle riding shepherds at a well. And Moses does that Billy Jack thing where he steps into a crowd and manages to rescue the damsels in distress. And he is brought back by the daughters to their father, Jethro, the priest of Midian. And Jethro immediately gives this fugitive, and there's really no other term for him, fugitive, shelter. And then getting to know him a little better, he is menschlich enough to agree to marry his daughter Zipporah to Moses. So wow, already we've got a good start. But now Moses returns. He's brought Moses' wife and Moses' child to the Israelite encampment at the foot of Mount Sinai, and all kinds of things unfold. First of all, he recognizes the great things that God has done, the liberation, the rescue of the Israelites from Egyptian slavery, and he praises God. The rabbis later conclude that he converts to Judaism. There's nothing in the text that proves that, but everybody's competing to find the first great convert to Judaism, and Jethro is definitely a candidate. But then he goes on and he does something even more extraordinary. Before God instructs the people at Israel, before we get the order of the Torah, Jethro, seeing that Moses is struggling to manage the vast number of people and to provide governance personally for all of these refugees, offers the suggestion. I'm going to pause for a second here. I'm back. Offers the suggestion of how to organize the Israelites into a viable government. And he doesn't just suggest, he gives a whole outline. It is, in effect, a kind of federated system. It's very rational. It goes in tiers that eventually lead to Moses as if he were like the Supreme Court. And it's very impressive. And so right away, Moses adopts his father-in-law's suggestion. And as a result, the Israelites have a much more orderly community by the time they are ready to receive God's Torah. So that's pretty amazing. Unstated, implied in all of this is the fact that every time Jethro's name is mentioned, it's always as Moses's father-in-law. That's probably not accidental. So why is it so important that we know that he is Moses's father-in-law over and over again? Well, think about Moses's life. His own father, we know his name, Amram, as far as we can tell, never played a role in Moses's life beyond the first couple of months. He disappears from the narrative completely, and as far as we know, Moses never has contact with him, so he is fatherless. The next father figure in his life would be, I presume, Pharaoh, right? He grows up in the pharaonic court. We don't know how big it is. He was probably one among many princes being raised there. But who wants Pharaoh as a grandfather? I mean, what kind of modeling is that? And I think Moses knew it. The fact that he was able to rebel against his Egyptian upbringing tells us that he saw that his grandfather's way was not a good way. And that leaves Jethro. It seems that Jethro really did function as Moses's father. He was the father figure that Moses wanted and needed to become the person he needed to become. Remember that as far as the narrative is concerned, he spent 40 years in the intimate company of Jethro. So one can only imagine that their bond was tremendous. We all need role models in our lives. None of us are born fully formed and able to make all the best decisions under all circumstances. We need models. We need guides. We need to encounter a mensch or two. And I vote that Jethro is the mensch of this Torah portion and that we need to celebrate him, just as many of us can celebrate all the fathers and grandfathers and surrogate fathers that we have encountered in our lives, both Jewish and not Jewish. And I'm not going to go any further than that, but simply draw attention to this wonderful relationship that plays out in our Torah portion. So, I hope you're all doing well. I hope we're all feeling a little better in light of what's happened. And I just want to let you all know that we will be having a special service this Friday night. It is going to be a service of consolation and strength in honor of what's happened at Congregation Beth Israel. And I hope, if you're feeling comfortable in these COVID times, to physically come out, that you will. Because I think this is a good time for us to get together. Or, to quote the paratroopers, Hine matov umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. How good and pleasant it is when Jews sit together in unity. Oh my God, I connected them. I put them together. I got it. All right, never mind. See you next week.